It's a Sunday special edition, Easter edition of Daily Delivery. I am Michael Rand, not the special edition Gophers fans wanted me to be bringing you this weekend off of the Gophers National Championship men's hockey game Saturday night in Tampa. Up 2-0 on Quinnipiac halfway through that game, looking like things will go their way, looking for their first championship in 20 years. And instead, as Randy Johnson will tell me in just a few minutes here when I bring him on, Gophers writer who was down in Tampa, a coronation that turned into a catastrophe. And maybe that sounds like it's strong, but if you watch that game, if you watch this team all season long, it felt like a team that was going to win the national championship. It felt like a team that had everything it needed. I don't know if there was a deeper Gophers team since the team that won the championship in 2002 in St. Paul. So much talent, so many future NHL players, and the requisite grit on top of that. And to end up losing 3-2 in overtime with Quinnipiac scoring the winning goal in overtime just 10 seconds into that extra frame after tying it with the goalie pulled with less than 2 minutes left in regulation. That is an epic gut punch. And I know this is college sports. I know it's on a different level than pro sports. I know we characterize these things a little differently, and I think that's fair. But in terms of expectation, in terms of how talented this team was, it felt to those who cared that much about it, it felt like a little bit like probably the 98 Vikings. It felt like that team that was so good that year and then just finally in the end, ultimately, unfortunately, lost in a way that will hurt for a long time. And it's not just me saying that. Bob Motzko, head coach of the Gophers, asked post-game kind of about what happened, how that game unraveled, whether they got too defensive in the third period, whether they were just kind of dumping the puck and hoping, which it looked like. And he just said, not really by design. Quinnipiac was kind of taking it to them, but he kind of gave a more complex answer to that question. So I want to play a quote from Bob Motzko's post-game availability now.
Not by design. We changed our neutral zone in the second period, and it worked. Like we stopped their zone entry. They were making a push. Tip your hat to Quinnipiac. They're very difficult, but we were in the right spot. Turn the puck over for one. Second one never should have went in. That was an unfortunate situation right there. So we had a chance. I'm crushed. We just have a wonderful group. They're loving that room for that group. I'm just crushed for them and for all of us. Our fans were fantastic. We were in a good spot.
And that's probably going to be the lingering takeaway, right? That this one is just going to hurt. However it happened, however it transpired, we'd be having a much different conversation right now if they had been able to get through those final 2 minutes of regulation, if they'd been able to keep the puck out of the net, even if they'd won 2-1 and it didn't feel like it was aesthetically pleasing at all, it still would have been a championship. The conversation would have been completely different, but because it didn't work, because whatever defensive structure they were in, whatever they were not able to do in that third period, it wouldn't have mattered if they would have escaped those final 2 minutes. But they didn't, and they get to overtime, and then, of course, disaster strikes just 10 minutes in. Quinnipiac wins that game. And I think we do, like Randy will say in a few minutes here, we got to give Quinnipiac credit. I thought Quinnipiac played a great game. Even when it was 2-0, I didn't love the way that game flow was going. I didn't love how the Gophers were kind of getting taken out of their game. The things they did so well all year, that top line that just had such a flair for playing the game so creatively, they just weren't able to sustain much offense even in the first, even after that initial rush in the game, even after that, they were not able to sustain much offense at all, even when they presumably would have been trying to score. So I think Quinnipiac's style and structure took a lot away from them, and that gave Quinnipiac life, that fed Quinnipiac. And when Quinnipiac got it to 2-1, all of a sudden it felt like it was a completely different game, and then it kind of snowballed from there until they did get that tying goal late and got that thing into overtime, and then of course, what happened in the end. Still a great season. I don't think we'll take that away from them. Nobody takes that away from them. People still can remember great seasons even if they had agonizing finishes, but man, that one will be remembered, I think, in a certain way for a very long time.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
I'm joined right now by Randy Johnson, covering Gophers hockey down in Tampa for this special edition of the Daily Delivery podcast. Randy, a disappointment, maybe an understatement for how that game finished on Saturday night. Gophers up 2-0 on Quinnipiac in middle of the second period, and from there things kind of took a turn. Maybe talk me through the beginning part of the game and how they must have been feeling at least pretty good at the beginning before we get to what happened next and some of the emotion of the fallout of eventually losing 3-2 in overtime.
Yeah, it was they got off to a nice start. They got the 1-0 lead, 5:35 into the game. They're playing pretty well in the first period. They had a couple chances to build on that lead, didn't get it then. They're up 7-4 in shots on goal after one period. Quinnipiac's going to try to slow things down if they can. Second period, Quinnipiac came out quite a bit better, but then the Gophers get the lead on the Jackson Nelson goal, or extend the lead on the Jackson Nelson goal to make it 2-0. But you kind of feel things shifting with Quinnipiac. They were starting to play quite a bit better, starting to possess the puck a lot more, and that continued throughout the period. And they get the little over 3 minutes after Nelson scored, Christophe Tellier scores for Quinnipiac, and that gets them right back in it. And the momentum's on their side at that point.
I mean, I think people at home are trying to understand kind of how momentum changed in that game, because Gophers come in as number 1 overall seed, Quinnipiac, a number 2 seed, but they'd beaten, 2 Big Ten teams already, including Michigan already in the Frozen Four. How is Quinnipiac able to kind of seize momentum, even, like you said, down 2-0 in that game?
They play their system and they play it really well. And first period, they weren't playing it as well as they did as the game wore on. They were fighting the puck a little bit. It just seemed like they just got better and better and seemed to have a lot more energy as the game wore on. I don't know if they're just better conditioned or just more tenacious. But it was the ice was tilted after about midway through the second period.
Now, there's a sense that, and I think this is kind of maybe a revisionist history at a certain point, but there's a sense, if you're watching this happen, that the Gophers maybe got too defensive-minded at a certain point, that they stopped kind of trying to generate chances when they got up 2-0. But the post-game from Bob Motzko, and I played some clips of that a little bit earlier, the post-game made it sound like that wasn't so much the case. Like they maybe changed some of what they were trying to do to stop some of the neutral zone entry at a certain point, but it didn't sound like they just went into a defensive shell. They just weren't generating much, midway through the game and on. Yeah, you to generate offense, you have to have the puck, and Quinnipiac was having the puck a lot more, especially in the third period and a lot of the second. The shots on goal after the first period, 26-8. The Gophers had 2 shots on goal in the third period. Yeah, and you're not getting many. You're not possessing the puck, but at the same time, was there as you were watching the game, did you get the sense that they were going conservative, or that they were just getting the game taken to them? I think more the latter than the former. Maybe there was a tendency after you get up 2-0, you don't take some chances, maybe. But I think if they were in a shell, they were put there in large part by Quinnipiac. Okay. Well, I think that's fair. I think there was also, just some people probably getting frustrated at home. I mean, this is a team that had such a high-powered offense throughout so much of the season, was such a fun team to watch, that when you get to the title game and you get up 2-0, you kind of expect them to either expand on that lead. And we've seen them throughout this whole tournament. The third period has generally been their best period, and in this case, it just wasn't for whatever reason. Did they? Like you said, do you know if they got tired, if they got worn down by the physical style, or what? How we account for kind of what we saw, especially in that third period?
I would say, yeah, that's part of it. They were, it was a lot of work to get the puck out of their zone. The way Quinnipiac was pinning them in there too. So it's, that takes work, that takes energy, and you're expending more energy. And Quinnipiac looked like a fresher team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's fair. It's just an interesting kind of dynamic along the way. Well, I think we heard it post game, and again, I'll play some clips. Or played some clips already from what we heard from Bob Motzko and some of the players afterward. But I mean, how do you describe the emotion after that game? Where again, there's kind of this build up, this expectation. They've been number one for most of the year. They're up 2-0 in this game. That one, it just had to feel like it hurt pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, that locker room was a pretty somber place. It was, there were, guys, pretty much every guy was crying. It was not, not a scene that that you like to go into. And thanks to the players who did talk. I mean, it was tough as heck for them to do so. But yeah, they were very, very this one hurt hard. This one stung for them.
And it kind of felt like this kind of team of destiny almost when you're thinking about 20 years ago was the last one. They just had such a loaded kind of stacked up team. I mean, as we think about next year and beyond, some of that conversation starts with what's going to happen to some of these really talented players in the coming days. I mean, how do you expect things to shake out in terms of, it seems like a lot of them might turn pro pretty soon and could be in NHL uniforms very quickly.
Well, one we already know of, Brock Faber today signed with the Wild. So my understanding is he was getting out of plane to Chicago with them today. So yeah, so he's gone. The next ones to look to see what happens are Matthew Nyes, a sophomore forward. He's second round pick by the Maple Leafs. This guy's got a NHL sized body, and he had a pretty good year. Kind of tailed off a bit at the end. He had some illnesses, I understand. Then you got to look at Logan Cooley, see what he's going to do. Number 3 overall draft pick by the Arizona Coyotes. So it's teams tend to want to get their high draft picks signed quickly. That's not to say he couldn't come back. He definitely could, and he could probably use another year. There's parts of his game that he can refine. He had a very, very good year. Came close to, as with Nyes, came close to winning the Hobie as one of the 3 hat trick finalists. He's going to be one that let's see what happens in the next few days. Then you have your seniors that'll be moving on. Jackson Combe, Ryan Johnson expected to be signing with their teams possibly here. There's a chance one, if not the other, could come back with the COVID year, but we'll wait and see on that. That hasn't happened a lot with the high end type of players. The teams usually want to get them signed.
They'll still have plenty of high end talent, of course, next year, and they obviously Bob Motzko has gotten this program back to a certain level. I mean, 2 straight Frozen Fours, on the verge of winning a championship before it didn't happen, and next year's Frozen Four is in St. Paul, if I'm not mistaken, and they've got to be thinking ahead already to kind of reloading and how they can kind of take this final next step. Last year losing in the semifinals, this year losing in the final. They got to have that sense. But let's face it, it's going to be harder without some of this cast of characters to carry them, because this was such a deep and loaded team across the board.
Yeah, it's going to be a different team. You have some senior leadership there too. That's along with the young talent that did a really good job. You got a player like Bryce Brodzinski, would he be? You got guys that Jackson Nelson, would he be going back for a COVID year? I don't know. There's some holes to fill, but they have a lot to work with. I will say that.
Yeah, and they've got the kind of the pedigree built up again to where people are going to want to come there and try to get this thing to the finish line. Randy Johnson, maybe some final thoughts for you. Atmosphere-wise, otherwise, I mean, it seemed like the Gophers fans traveled really well to this Frozen Four in Tampa. I think people were kind of ready to celebrate. I'm imagining the mood was kind of down, obviously, by the end. But if you
go
ahead.
I was going to say the theme of my story for tomorrow is It went from an expected coronation to catastrophe. It's about as the fans were incredibly impressive here in Tampa, all over Tampa. Just they came out loud and strong and full force, and it was impressive to see that showing here. And I'm sure the winter we've had made people want to get down somewhere warm and sunny, and it certainly was that here.
Will they, I guess the final thought is, will they at some point, not today, not tomorrow, will they at some point be able to kind of, we're talking about players and players and Bob Motzko in particular, will they be able to take a step back and appreciate this year for what it was, or does the ending kind of feel like that will supersede everything? But when we're talking about how this year went,
they'll always have that ending that doesn't wrap it up in that big golden bow, that the whole season could have with all the all America honors, coach of the years, all this stuff that they accomplished. And but the one thing, this was a really tight knit team. Really, really cared for each other and their coaching staff. I think that bond will be there. Obviously it's going to take some time to get over this type of defeat. I mean, this is a gut punch for all of them.
No doubt about it. Well, Randy, appreciate your time. Appreciate all your coverage. Get home safe, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, Mike. Appreciate it.
I appreciate all of Randy's hard work covering this team all year. I hope you will read his coverage. Good follow story coming in Star Tribune, StarTribune.com, and I'm sure on Monday's regular edition of this show, Patrick Royce and I will have plenty to talk about this game, as well as another big weekend in Minnesota sports. Until then, that's it for me. I'm Michael Rand. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Back at it again tomorrow.